Happy Easter, everyone. I grew up in a neighbourhood of garages that rarely had cars in them. They were the domain of workbenches and tools and collections of all manner of junk that was far too important to throw out. These garages were connected to the public footpath by driveways and a complete absence of fences and anything else that would keep youngsters away. On Saturday mornings and after 5 p.m. weekdays, the doors of these garages would be wide open to let the fumes and banging noises out and to let the curious come in. They were the domains of dads who made and fixed things. In the days when dads were home by 5 p.m. and didn't work weekends. And in days where, at least in my neighbourhood, one didn't see women using power tools. It was the 1960s, and although there were lots of things askew back then, like gender restrictions, one good thing that there was lots of was time. One neighbour had a lathe, another specialised in carving, another in fixing lawnmowers and other machinery. And we, the pre-teens, the bicycle gang, roamed between garages, often picking up something useful for the construction of huts and the bush reserve down the street. My bike came from the tip being a great source of raw material. Actually, it was just the frame that came from the tip. The wheels, gearing, handlebars and the like came from elsewhere, refashioned, repainted and reused. I can't remember anyone on my street in those days having a bike or car that was brand new. My elder brother's first car was an Austin A30, but its engine came from a rust bucket of an A35. The engine transplant happened over a number of weeks on our front lawn. My mother held her tongue, which was something of a rarity. Every inanimate object seemed to get a second or third or fourth life. The wheelbarrow got a new second-hand wheel, or a new bottom welded on. The lawnmower had its blade resharpened, the spade a new carved handle, the dog a purpose-built kennel from an old wooden packing crate. Things came back to life, or got a new life, by being fixed. And that's one way how I understand those great Easter stories and themes about resurrection, transformation and new life. To bring something back to life, like an old bike, someone or someone's needed to put in the work. We take what's discarded in the communal tip, bring it to the garage and put the work in. Like how it was with my old bike, so it is with people. Some people, oftentimes through no fault of their own, are considered of no use or no longer of use. They are rubbished, thought to be of no account. They are tipped out of the mainstream to rot on the margins. And like with my old bike, the work of transformation is going to where such people are tipped, and helping them find new life and meaning. The work of resurrection begins in believing in those who are told and come to think that they are trash. For we don't throw people away. We don't believe anyone is rubbish. In a sense, rubbish is how many of those attracted to the early Jesus movements had been made to feel. Upwardly mobile and respectable society, the first century equivalents of the beautiful, rich and successful, the pious, the powerful, had discarded them and called them rubbish and banished them to the equivalent of tips. Widows, orphans, the sick, the impoverished, foreigners, the elderly slaves, the sexually other like eunuchs, all those who scraped for housing, health and food, were, as Don Crossan says, considered to be nuisances and nobodies. Yet here was a movement who believed in people who had been trashed, who made space for nobodies, who restored the wasted, and they did it primarily in the garage called the communal meal. There were times in my 1960s childhood when neighbours joined forces. I don't mean borrowing a chisel or giving a plank of wood to someone in need or using a neighbour's oxyacetylene welding equipment. I mean when someone needed us all to help out with a big job, like digging out a basement or building a 6-foot high retaining wall. Oh, I remember that retaining wall well. The dads had this big planning conference, and then one of them, who knew more than the rest of them, but only just, said that this massive rock in the middle of where the planned wall needed to go had to be moved. So after the requisite swear words, they got to, and we all joined in. There was digging to loosen it, ropes around to pull it, and round fence posts placed in front to roll it on. It was a major operation. And then there was the heaving and the straining and the encouraging and the cussing, and we did it. The stone was rolled away. I can't remember too much about where the stone was rolled to, mind you, but I'm sure someone would have found a use for it. As I said back then, nothing got wasted. When I think about the legend of Jesus being buried in a rich man's tomb with a massive stone blocking the entrance, I think about that stone and the retaining wall. It's a lot of effort to move a big rock. And it takes, given the technology of Jesus' day and my old neighbourhood, it takes a community working together. No one would have thought of hiring a digger. When I read that old Jesus story of that stone that got rolled away, I think of the stone as a metaphor for all that blocks and diminishes life. A metaphor for all that stops people and communities thriving. A metaphor for all that keeps people entrapped in the past, in the tombs, imprisoned in a place not of their choosing, rotting away out of the way, so that the mainstream of the successful and the powerful can carry on doing what they've always done, namely making the world to serve their ends. There are a lot of stones blocking a lot of tombs. On an individual level where counsellors, social workers and life coaches can help. On a community level where organisations working and advocating for the common good can help unblock and free people and neighbourhoods to flourish. On a national level where policies and programs can be resourced to break down all that leads to marginalisation and the impoverishment of people in body, mind and soul. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of communal mahi to do. The work of people, neighbours, even strangers, joining together and with heaving and straining and encouraging, occasionally cussing, the stones that trap people into a deathly past can be rolled away. You see, I don't think of the resurrection as something that a supernatural being kind of God did by resuscitating Jesus back to life, giving him a new nail-proof body that could walk through walls. And I don't think of the resurrection as something that a supernatural being kind of God did with the help of some winged heavenly angels coming down at night to move that massive rock. Rather, I think of resurrection as something that happened in those early gatherings of nuisances and nobodies, when sharing, mutual caring, and belonging transformed them, and they came in time to find new life and meaning. And God was known in each other, known in their imperfections, known in the power of their together, and was present among them as they worked to restore each other and begin transforming the whole world. It was those early communities of Jesus' followers that then crafted the resurrection stories that have come down to us today. Today, Easter Sunday, we celebrate restoration and transformation. We celebrate that none of us, no one, is rubbish, and that no one anywhere should ever be so designated. We celebrate that we belong, that we are beneficiaries of stones being rolled away by others, and that we too can reciprocate by working together, rolling stones away for individuals, neighborhoods, communities, and nations. So let's do it, and do it more and more. Every blessing.